Good evening. It's week 10, double digits. Just seems like we started this, 10 weeks ago, and here we are. I think I like this a little better. Yeah. So it's the corner, college football corner with Randy and Fletch. And we're looking college football playoff 12 team Tuesday night, election night. Everything's happening on what's more important, who's winning the race for the presidency or who's going to be on the leaderboard of the first of CFP. I'm sure that the presidency would be a little more important because the first, the first rankings don't matter. It's the last ones that matter. But
right,
it's kind of funny how it's all coming on the same day. So interesting Tuesday. We were talking off camera, and we think we're going to organize a Monday night look into the CFP ahead, and we'll give our maybe layout predictions and stuff, what we think it's going to look like. And more importantly, how the race is going to unfold. So without further ado, if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe, hit the bells so you can stick with us here. We're going to start to try to grow this thing to other things as well. And Facebook, hit the follow button, give us a like, thumbs up. And we appreciate it very much. So Randy, how'd your week go? And you ready for football?
No, I'm ready for football. The week didn't go all that great, but we'll get through it.
Yep. So, looking at the schedule and stuff, there's not a whole lot of crazy great games, but they're pretty much all interesting just because if anybody stumbles, especially against a non-conference or a unranked, even though it's not CFP rankings, it's gonna make a dent. And of course, next week when all the rankings switch to the CFP, then it's going to matter who's ranked and where and all that. But for the beginning of this here, we're going to throw this out here if this thing will work for me here. Maybe not. Sometime. Here we go. Delayed. Everything. Okay, so we got this right here going up. This is what everything looks like going into tonight, not counting anything that happened last night. Basically after last week. So and the ACC is real interesting. You got 4 teams that are undefeated, and Pitt plays SMU this weekend. They play Clemson in a couple weeks, and that's it as far as those teams playing each other. Miami does not play SMU, Pitt, or Clemson, and so it's going to be really interesting. That could really come down to 3 undefeated teams that never played each other if things unfold the way they will or could, and then it's going to be interesting how the tiebreakers go. And all these conferences got crazy tiebreakers. The Big Ten's kind of the same way. They've got 3 undefeated teams. Ohio State's sitting there at 3-1, and they play all these teams. They've already played Oregon. They play Penn State tomorrow in Indiana. I think either the week after, not the week after, but in 2 weeks. I think they're playing right before the Michigan game. So really interesting. And then the SEC, they got 1 undefeated, and then it's real interesting behind them because Georgia lost Alabama, boat raced Texas, Tennessee beat Alabama, but LSU is playing Alabama next week. Alabama and LSU are off this week. Georgia plays Florida, and then they play, I believe they play Tennessee. And but they don't play A&M, so they, they have the head against Texas because they beat them badly. So Texas I think has a tough road to get to the championship game. If Georgia doesn't lose, they won't get in there no matter what, unless A&M starts losing. So,
well,
Texas,
actually Texas has the easiest road to schedule wise.
Well, schedule wise, but as it stands now, if it ends up where Georgia doesn't lose, then they won't get in because if they beat A&M, then they would beat the tiebreaker on A&M, so they could get there that way when they play them end of the year.
Well, that's the way it came out,
and that would be the only way if Georgia doesn't lose out. So right. A&M can't lose. I mean, they need to not lose. I should say they want to keep things the way they are because one loss would drop them down. Then they got to beat Texas, and if that one loss is to Texas, then that drops them down too. Considering Texas goes on winning, and yes, they do have a pretty nice schedule setting up. And then out there in the Big 12, BYU and Iowa State undefeated. Iowa State plays this weekend. BYU does not. Colorado does not. And a lot of people are picking Colorado, but they've already lost to Kansas State. And I don't think they play BYU or Iowa State. So if Kansas State falters and Colorado is able to jump up into some kind of a tiebreaker, it'll be interesting how that all falls out. So craziness and a lot of games coming up over the next few weeks. The November to remember is going to be interesting, basically starting with this week. But before that, we probably need to talk a little bit about last week. Is there anything we want to go over from last week's games at all?
Oh, well, actually, I'm trying to even remember what the heck happened last week. I usually have everything right here in front of me, and today I do not.
Notre Dame was a little surprised. They really dismantled Navy. I thought
Oh,
they
yeah.
might win, and be a tough game because Navy's usually tough out. And they just looked like, now a lot of it was Navy. They fumbled the ball 7 times and lost 5 of them. So that was pretty bad thumbs game for them. So it wasn't a good look for Navy comparatively speaking. So and Notre Dame took advantage of all that and really took care of business against the
Yeah,
ship.
well, the one that just now popped in my head was the LSU Texas A&M game.
Oh yeah,
Watching that, and the way the game starts off, I'm like, well, man, LSU, they're rolling right along here. This is probably going to end up getting real ugly. Well, it got real ugly, but the other way around. I mean, this the second half when Texas A&M changed quarterbacks and went with the running quarterback, and they turned on their running game, and LSU just had no answer for that, and so that was really surprising from the way that game started to the way it ended. Texas A&M just really turned it on.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting moving forward. I think they're moving forward with that quarterback. And, they went 4 for 4 on touchdown drives when he took the helm in the second half. If they can ride that wave still, if that continues, then watch out. Also, A&M looks really good, and their only loss is to a really good Notre Dame team now. They've played a lot better since they did against Northern Illinois, which is, I think, a 3-loss team already. So, yeah, that second half was, as crazy as anything we've seen this year. We've seen a lot of crazy halves this year in certain games. So that was no short of any of the others. So, yeah, I thought LSU was just going to be like, okay, here we go. This is and then the wheels just fell off for them. And now they're, they got to play. They got a big, it's neat how I think LSU and Alabama always have a bye off before they play each other. Is how they work the schedule usually.
They do. They always have that bye off just before they play each other, and that game actually is Lane Kiffin of all people is the one complaining the most about it. Was LSU gets another night game, another big game for them, and it's a night game at home. And he's like, hey, we'd like to have a big night game at home, but LSU gets 2 of them. So he was kind of complaining about LSU getting it, and we all know that that home crowd, especially in Baton Rouge, playing LSU, and then throw in the night game, and it's even more chaotic than normal. So
there's two things you got to do to get games at home at night. One is you got to win games, the big ones. And then 2, you can't play games on Fox because their big games are never at night. They're all big noon,
right.
So, which is like tomorrow's game, Ohio State at Pittsburgh, Penn State. Normally whiteout, man. Now all of a sudden with Fox and their big noon, that game's a noon game the last so many years.
Yeah.
And it does take something off it, I think. I mean, I'm glad it's not going into a whiteout because we know what that looks like. And I'm being a Buckeye fan. I don't want them to lose. And that's a tough environment, even though Ohio State has done well there. They've only lost once since 2016, and that was a blocked field goal. But nonetheless, that's a wild environment, and you just never know what you're going to get every year. So it'll still be wild. It's just going to be at noon. But, yeah, LSU, they play on CBS and ABC, and they get them at night. And Ole Miss just needs to, it's tough to get a night game when you lose to Kentucky. No offense to Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, his gripe was that LSU – the advantage that they get by having those 2 games like that instead of one game and everybody else getting their one game in, they get 2 of them. So
yeah. And I heard today because the guy on the radio he's calling a game in Oklahoma, and it's such a low key game. They're playing Maine of all teams that it's controlled by ESPN Plus. And when you're on a streaming service like ESPN Plus, and the guy said he thinks Peacock's the same way, the school can dictate the time. So they're moving the game up to 11 o'clock local time, Central Time Zone, because there's bad storms rolling in later in the afternoon. They want to get the game over with. But if you're on ESPN, ABC, CBS, you can't control the time because those networks have paid for the slots. They got their audiences and all that. They want the big audiences. So interesting tidbit I didn't know, but I learned that today.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
That satellite radio is paying off at $5 a month. So let's see. The first game we got out of the bag, I believe, is the ACC. Surprisingly undefeated Pitt. I mean, they're undefeated all the way around, and they're undefeated in the ACC, and they got SMU, which is also undefeated in the ACC, I believe, if that's right. I got that right here. And yeah, 3-0 and 4-0. So I like Pitt in this one. I really do. And I guess honestly, I could say I don't really know a whole lot about SMU. I haven't watched them. I know they were figured to be really good. They're new in the ACC, but I like Pat Narduzzi, and he's a defensive minded guy. He's come out of the D'Antonio tree, the Trestle tree. He was at Michigan State, and he's a Pitt guy, and he wants to be there. He doesn't want to take more money to go somewhere else and risk not being happy. He's happy. So he was on the radio today again. I was listening to it. So I like Pitt in this one. So I think Pitt is going to have something to say because they do play Clemson as well. So they win both those games. They pretty much got a stamp on the ACC championship game for sure.
Right.
If they win the rest of them, obviously.
Yeah, Pitt has looked pretty good. SMU, I haven't seen a whole lot of them either myself. So yeah, but I did watch Pitt the other day. I thought, man, they look pretty good.
Yeah, they opened up a can against Syracuse last Thursday.
Yeah.
That was crazy. There were some tip balls and little tip drills, but that got out of hand real quick. I think it was 3 pick sixes in the first quarter, so that was ugly. So,
oh yeah,
no doubt. And then it'll be interesting the way the rest of that ACC falls out. I really think Clemson's playing good football, so we'll see how they play against Pitt in a couple weeks. That'll be a big game. And then of course, they may end up playing them again in the ACC championship game. So, it's interesting. Miami doesn't play any of these other teams. Tiebreaker city for possibly the second team in that or whatever. Who isn't ahead of everybody. We also got the Big 12. Iowa State's undefeated, so is BYU. BYU is off, and a lot of people are high on Colorado and Shedeur Sanders. They're off this week, but Iowa State's undefeated, and they're looking to keep that alive against Texas Tech, who was undefeated a couple weeks ago, but they recently took a loss. And then Kansas State, I think, is sitting there at 4-1, and they beat Colorado. And so it'll be interesting to see how that all unfolds and where these teams are going to fall out. But I like Iowa State in this. I like Dan Campbell. Again, I don't know a whole lot about Texas Tech. Haven't really seen them much, but historically, for so many years, Iowa State's been pretty good, and then even on their bad years, they've been okay. But they beat Oklahoma a couple years in a row and killed their seasons. So I like Iowa State and to hold serve and stay undefeated in the Big 12 in this one.
Yeah, Texas Tech has that, the wide open offense. They're flying all over the field with it. And, normally whenever they're really doing well, they're scoring a lot of points. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that with Iowa State or not. But, Iowa State at home, I would have to go with them.
Yep. And then we go down to the Big 10. This is big noon tomorrow. ESPN's there. I think Big Noon's there. And it's a noon kickoff. And it's a big one, undefeated Penn State against once beaten by Ohio State. And not too many times recently where one of these teams got a loss and it's not Penn State. So I think Penn State looks probably better than they have in quite a while. They got a nice-looking quarterback that he's been there a couple of years now, and the system's a starter. 3 years in the system, 2 years as a starter. He's a little banged up, twisted his knee a little bit last week, and I think he's supposed to go, so we'll see how that goes. He's not really a running quarterback. That kind of plays in Ohio State's favor. I think they'd rather play against him, more of a pocket guy. But they got a dual tandem running back, Sanderson and another guy, and they got some decent receivers, but they got this crazy tight end guy, Tyler Warren. I don't know if you've seen any stats with him. He had like 17 catches in the USC game. It was like, so they got to cover him, for sure. And then they're pretty stout on defense. So obviously I got to pick the Buckeyes because I'm definitely obviously a Buckeye fan. But this game, I think, and part of me hopes it goes to the fourth quarter. Unless Ohio State blows them out, which these teams hardly ever blow each other out. So it should be a good game that goes to the fourth quarter and could come down to turnovers and a potential kicking game.
Yeah, this is. I always say this about Penn State. Penn State seems to roll right along, stay at the top of the polls, and then along comes Ohio State and another big game, and all of a sudden they, not what everybody thought that they were. And I think that's going to be the case again. I think Ohio State's going to go there. I think they're going to take care of business. I think they'll win this game. I could see it being close. Um, I mean, there's no way Penn State's blowing out Ohio State, but I could actually see Ohio State blowing out Penn State. Getting things going, and late in the game, all of a sudden, get a couple of big scores in the fourth quarter. I mean, Ohio State's done that pretty well the last couple of years. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the only way I can see Ohio State, blowing them out. But I think Ohio State will be fine in this game. I just, James Franklin, the coach at Penn State, he just doesn't seem to be able to get over the hump to to get there. In the Big Ten championship and all that kind of stuff. So, and we'll kind of
Yeah.
see how this plays out. But I think Ohio State will, eventually will take care of business here.
I hope you're right. I was listening today. After this game, Ohio State and Penn State play in Columbus next year. Then they won't play again until 2028 with the whole way thing, unless they change everything up again, which who knows. But the way the current system is, Penn State didn't rival any team like Ohio State will always play Michigan. Penn State doesn't have a rival in the Big Ten. They chose not to have one, so they're not going to play any same team once every year. So after next year, they'll be done with Penn State and or Ohio State. They'll be done with each other until 2028. So that might be good for Franklin.
Well, but it doesn't make any sense to me. You have you got the top teams in the Big Ten. We all know who they are. Indiana's having a great year, and there's always somebody that's having a great year that slips in there, and that could be Iowa. This year it's Indiana.
Right.
The one year it was Minnesota. So I mean, some other team usually slides in there and has a really good season. But when it comes right down to it, it's always been Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. Basically those were, have been the big three for the longest time, and and even when it comes to it comes to rivalry games and stuff. I mean, I see Ohio State and Penn State as a rivalry game myself.
Me too.
Penn State coming to Ohio State, that one thing, but it's always, it always seems to be more rivalry wise whenever Ohio State's going to Penn State, because Penn State's such a crazy place to play at.
Right.
And,
right.
Like you said, I mean, Ohio State's probably lucky that it's not a night game, because it would even be more crazy. And we've talked several times about how the crowd can get into that and make a difference, and all that kind of stuff. So it certainly favors Ohio State to be playing at 12:00.
Yeah. That game will draw money and numbers no matter where they play it. When teams like that, Michigan's, the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Tennessees, the Georgias, you'll get the ratings no matter what. So, but they're trying to do something different to Fox, so and that's fine. I mean, I was surprised when Penn State didn't pick Ohio State for a rival game, because up until this year it's been divisions, and in Ohio State's division is Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and even Michigan State. And Michigan State's that 1/4 team that peaks up every once in a while, and Penn State's a little above them, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
and they're right there nipping at the heels, and they just can't get it done. And it's so many years where it's like, oh, they're going to kill us this year, and then we pull it out. I mean, it's been amazing. Right. Some of the best games I've seen in the last 10 years has been this rivalry right here, because Michigan really hadn't been that good until the last 3 years.
Yeah, definitely a rivalry game.
So,
in my book.
And Bobby Carpenter on the radio today, he was saying they've been playing this game for 30 years, because that's how long they've been in the Big Ten. Every year for 30 years they've played each other. Now we're not going to do it after next year. So that does kind of have a smell to it that I don't like. But I mean, maybe they'll change it, hopefully, because this is a ratings kicker. But from the one stand, at least James Franklin, maybe he's wiping his brow. And I thought about this: if James Franklin was the coach of Ohio State and hadn't beat somebody in 9 years, he would have already been fired.
Oh, yeah.
But Penn State ain't doing that. And credit to them, because I think he's a good coach. It's just one of those things. They've been so close. You can't say he's not doing a good job. You can't get the big ones done. It's just one of those things. And we've seen it before where, some coaches, it took Kirby a little while to get things going. When he finally got there, he lost, and to get over, he couldn't beat Alabama, and he finally did. So you got to get. I know it's been not as long as him, but still, I hate to see these coaches get revolved out the door too early. I hate that stuff. So I'd love to see Indiana stick with Signetti and him put that team on the map over the next 3 or 4 years. That they're all of a sudden a tough team to play, and Wisconsin get a little better, and now all of a sudden the Big Ten is just really growing up, and then you got Oregon in there and stuff. It's tough. I mean, you just can't expect to win the conference every year anymore, and especially with these super conferences, it's just no way.
Well, I mean, I think in the Big Ten, we thought maybe USC would come in and make a little noise, which they did not.
Right.
So I mean, the Big Ten, really hasn't changed much other than Oregon.
Right.
Now we have Ohio State, which has always been, and
Yep.
in Oregon now, I mean, Michigan isn't what they was last year, obviously,
Right.
and and Penn State's always been there hanging around. So
Yep.
I mean, not a whole lot has changed in the Big Ten. We thought that USC could do that, but they haven't. So, but I mean, Oregon certainly has. I mean,
Yeah.
changed things. And the
And
Big
Indiana's a surprise this year.
Well,
I mean, nobody saw that coming.
Yeah, no, nobody saw. That's what I was saying. But there's
Right,
always
right.
seems to be a team, and this year it's Indiana that just has a great season.
Right.
But we'll see what happens with Indiana whenever
Oh, yeah.
an Ohio State, a Penn State, something like that comes up on them. I would love to see them knock a big team off and put
Oh, yeah.
themselves on the map. That'd be great. That'd be real good for the Big Ten.
Yep. I mean, the only big team they play is Ohio State. As far as Oregon and Penn State, they don't play those two. They do play Ohio State. Of course, I don't want them to lose that game, but if they win that game, man, that just kind of really puts a big solidification on what that guy's been doing in Indiana.
Oh man,
they haven't been playing bums, but they haven't played the top teams. They don't have a ranked team on their schedule yet, but when they've been killing it. They have not. They've led in every game. They have not been behind in any game this year. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, take care of business. So, take care of who's in front of you. That's what it's all about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that's a big one tomorrow at noon, and we'll I'll be smoking some chili while that's cooking, and then afterwards I'm either going to celebrate or drown in that chili. I don't know. We'll find out. Hopefully, I'm celebrating like you believe. I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah, I think so.
And then tomorrow night, I believe this is a 7:30 kick, and it's A&M and the Gamecocks. Is that South Carolina? A lot of people are saying big things about this game because Carolina's been really close. They say a couple plays, they could be a one-loss team. They've been in most of their games. I think they were blown out by Ole Miss, but I might be wrong about that. I thought somebody got them pretty good, but everybody else has been close. But I guess they got a really nice front seven. So
their defense, they probably have one of the best defensive players in the country. Their defense is very good. The thing is their offense, and a lot of people are saying, I mean, if they could just get some offense going and, keep their defense from being on the field all the time, then South Carolina has a good shot at winning this game. But, I mean, that's what it all comes down to, their offense, consistency with their offense. Their defense is good, very good. So that'll be the thing for them if they can. Now Texas A&M's defense is pretty darn good too.
yeah.
But I don't know that they are as good as South Carolina. They said the one guy from South Carolina, and I don't know why I don't have my thing in front of me here. I'll give you his name. Is
he a defensive end?
What is it?
Is he a defensive end?
Yes, yeah. He's a pass rusher. He lives in the backfield. I mean, he literally lives in the backfield. So that'll be so. I mean, this game has potential to be very interesting. I think it'll be a close game. So we'll see what happens there.
Most are predicting to be close. I would feel a little different. As far as I would feel like A&M probably take this if they were at Kyle Field because they got that home field advantage. That place was crazy loud last week. But look at my daughter, Bobby. She's a smart kid. Oh, yeah.
There you go.
There we go. That's my Lexi. So, but yeah, being on the road, somewhat of a trap game. You never know. They're just coming off a big win last week, turning it around against LSU. I like Elko. He's a tough coach. I mean, it seems like he's a guy that they want to run through the wall for. So it's going to be really interesting watching A&M go through the next few weeks. Can they make it to Texas with no more losses? And if Texas make that way, that just really puts a huge end of the year. That'll be. I think that's going to be Thanksgiving weekend. I don't know if they play on Friday or not, but that'll be fun, real fun. And that'll be pretty much for the SEC. if not both of them playing each other again. I mean, I don't know how this is all going to roll
Well,
fold out, but
you talking about Texas A&M, Georgia?
no, it's Texas A&M and Texas play each other at the end of the year.
Oh,
Yeah, so you just it could be where they're both playing themselves 2 weeks in a row. I mean,
doesn't A&M play Georgia too?
um,
I thought
I,
they
let me,
did.
you got that in front of you? I got my phone.
I do not. Like I said, I had it sitting right here and I moved
Let
it.
me see
Now I don't
here.
know what to do with myself.
I will get there real quick. So so let me find Georgia. Click on them and see if it'll tell me their schedule. Yeah, here we go. So they're playing Florida this week. Then they
Right.
got Ole Miss, Tennessee, Massachusetts, and Georgia Tech. So yeah, they don't
Okay.
play them. Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll be it's all long, lots of time going on for that, but still, that's a nice looking game tomorrow night. That'll be fun to watch, and not a lot other stuff to watch around it. I don't think not a lot of other matches. So this one will be the marquee game, 7:30. I think it's kicking maybe 8 o'clock. So
they have the Clemson. Who's Clemson playing tomorrow night? That's the 7:30 game tomorrow night.
yeah, they're playing. Man, it's not a. Oh man.
Yeah, they're playing pretty good team tomorrow.
Let's see here. Let me get to. Clemson. Oh, they're playing Louisville, and it's at Clemson.
Yeah, Louisville at
Louisville. Yeah, this year it seems like Louisville's gotten real close, and they end up can't on some of the games they can't close it out. And this is on the road, so I'd love to see Louisville pull the upset in that. I just don't know if they can do it on the road to Clemson. The way Clemson's been playing the last few weeks, or pretty much since Georgia pounded them, they put together a nice season. They're rolling pretty good, so
they are.
It'll be interesting when they play Pitt in a couple of weeks. That's going to be really interesting. So.
Well, Clemson needs to just take care of business so we can all see that championship game with Miami and Clemson. That's what everybody wants to see. It's what I want to see. So,
yeah, and they could. And the interesting thing with Clemson is they end the year against South Carolina, and that's not a conference game. So the last conference game was the week before. They could already have it wrapped up and not have to worry about losing or beating South Carolina to get to that game. And if they win that, they ought to get an automatic bid. So interesting to end the season with a non-con, but it's a rivalry, so that's all understandable.
Right.
So good stuff, though. Good stuff. So yeah, there's good games on tomorrow. There's no doubt, and all the time slots are filled with some decent games. And then the other ones, we know it. I would almost put my money on. I don't know who, but somebody is probably going to lose to a team they shouldn't lose to tomorrow. That just seems to happen every week, and that just kind of throws a wrench in plans. So you just never know, what team losing to an unranked team or just a team that's just they should. Because a lot of ranked on unranked tomorrow. There's no doubt.
Oh yeah.
So, interesting.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
So
yeah, that'll be interesting. Then did you see? I mean, I'm jumping out of college football here, out of the college football corner into the NFL. But did you see that Washington-Chicago ending with the Hail Mary?
Oh yeah, the dude that was like playing it up to the crowd the whole time.
Yeah.
What an idiot.
Yeah. Wait a minute! I better get over here and tip this ball to this guy. Yeah.
He couldn't have done more wrong on one play. I mean, he's counting the fans, and the ball's in the air, and he runs over there and tips it up in the air right to the.
And all the memes and stuff they have on that are just absolutely hilarious.
Oh yeah,
fantastic inning is always kind of cool to see that stuff.
Yeah, that was like you can't write scripts that good. It was that perfect. He didn't just taunt the fans. He's also the guy that caused them to lose by tipping the ball up. Oh man, that was and that dude threw the ball about 70-something yards in the air. And he had I don't know if you saw this. Jaden Daniels had 12.2 seconds from the time he snapped the ball before he threw that pass.
Yeah, I did see that. I knew it was just under 13 seconds. That whole play. Wow, yeah, that was pretty wild.
There was another angle where they showed the Chicago guy that was the spotter to follow Daniels across the line to make sure you don't go anywhere. And he never got in there, and I think it's Rex Ryan was going, "Get your butt in there and run, make him go to his left because he's a left hand. Make him go to his right, so he can't throw left." And it was just, everything was, he just had too much time back there. And we talk about it. You can't give him that much time. You got to rush.
Well,
a couple
no, I
other
mean,
guys.
no, he created some of that time himself,
Oh, he
actually.
did, yeah, but they only had 3 going after him, so
Well,
it's like
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
that's why
Yep.
he was able to go for 12
Right.
seconds, just run around, and he's a
Yeah.
fast guy. There's no doubt. So
Yeah.
nutty, nutty.
Maybe we'll see a finish like that in the Ohio State Penn State game. That'd be cool.
As long as it's the Buckeyes. Hey, a lot of people are like, "Oh, the Buckeyes," they only won 17 to whatever it was against Nebraska. And I said, you
Yeah.
know what? If that was a national championship game, nobody would be talking about the score. They won. I said, a win's a win, man. You get it however you can get it. You can't predict it, and no matter what you game plan, sometimes you got to throw it out the window because it's not working. You got to change it up. It's football, man. So that's just the way
Yeah,
it goes.
but I have to correct you on one thing there. If that was a championship game, they would be griping about all kinds of things.
Well, but if they won, they won. But if they lost,
Right.
yeah,
Well,
but
that's what I'm saying. But I
right,
mean,
right.
either way, they're going to be. When it comes down to one play, or we go back to one call, and
Oh yeah, yeah,
and we all know that there's 60 minutes in that game, and there's
yeah.
another 60, 70 plays that were made that could have been this, could have been that, but they always seem managed to find that one single thing that
Oh yeah,
hey,
yeah.
you can't believe how could he miss that,
Right, right.
so
I mean,
yeah,
we've seen there's some teams where they look like they should be playing, they should be winning, and they just keep dropping the ball in games, and it's amazing
oh
sometimes
yeah.
how that happens. It's football. It's just
Who,
there's so many variables. You just got to keep plugging and try to make it to the end and be on the winning side of it. But
I
it's
was
no
trying.
more simple than score more points than the other team.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who I was watching. It was one of the later games I'm watching, and I'm like, I swear I've just seen this team drop 8 balls in the last 3 series. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
wide open guys running across, and either missing him or hitting him right in the hands and dropping it. And I was like, "God, man, catch the friggin' ball, jeez!" But
yeah.
I'm trying to
Was
remember
that
who that
last week?
was. Oh yeah, it was Alabama. That's who it was.
I thought I was going to say that.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
kidding. No, I can't remember who it was, but
except
yeah,
for Williams, he ain't dropping passes too much. You got to throw to him more often.
yeah.
But they need to. Alabama needs to run the football. I mean, they got a great running quarterback, Cam Newton, everybody, and just run, and drop some passes in. They're just trying to do too much with him and his arm, and it's a big arm, but it's not an accurate arm, especially when he's running around. So,
But it's accurate on the long ball. But I mean,
right.
and that's all fine and dandy. But you set everything up to get that long ball, and you get what, maybe 3 or 4 chances a game at it.
Right.
I mean, you can take more, but I mean, you basically set it up to where you can get something long like that. So if you're not accurate on the short to medium passes,
Oh yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah, you got to be able to hit the guys going across the middle, going on the quick outs and stuff, and it's
Absolutely.
ugly sometimes. So
Yep.
no doubt. So yeah, I mean Ohio State, for other woes they had a week ago. I mean, I watched a lot of game film and stuff, and there's one guy. He's not a new lineman. They showed they did a trap play where they were pulling guards, and 2 guards are pulling from the left to the right, and this guy on the right just had it backwards. He got up and pulled from the right to the left, and it ran right into one of the linemen, knocked him down. And it's like it's just mistakes. They just had a bad game, and they had 2 left tackles go down over since the Oregon game, so they were shuffling around and. So hopefully they get things corrected. Otherwise it's going to be it might be pretty ugly against if they got to play better to make it respectable. If they play like they did last week, it's probably not going to be very good for them because I think Penn State at home with that crowd and that team, they're a lot better than Nebraska. Their quarterback's not a true freshman, and which Raiola is. I would expect them to play a lot better. So Ohio State's really got to play better, and I think they will. I think they.
Yeah.
But you never know until they strap it up and get it on, man, and you never know what happens. So that's what makes it.
Well, I think you look at last week's game with Ohio State and Nebraska, and it's always that little edge that somebody can have. I think Nebraska had a little bigger chip on their shoulder. Ohio State knew they just got absolutely obliterated by Indiana.
Yeah.
So maybe just that little edge was on Nebraska's side, and it made it a close game. And that's the way that we see this happening in college. Well, I mean, in sports in general, somebody gets a little edge, or the big swings, the big momentum swings, and all of a sudden everything changes. So I think that was kind of the whole part of the thing with Nebraska and Ohio State. When Ohio State needed it, they were able to turn it up and get it done. But
Yep.
yeah, I think I still think that Nebraska. Oh man, we got embarrassed. We got something to prove.
Oh
Ohio
yeah.
State's going. Oh, you got destroyed by Indiana. Are you kidding me? So it doesn't take much
Hmm.
for one team or the other to get an edge on another team. Not necessarily you have to be better players, 5-star guys, 4-star guys. Just like I said, when you talk about that momentum, the edge, the attitude that these guys bring it onto the field is what makes all the difference.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people are like, "Man, Ohio State should have destroyed that team. Indiana destroyed them," and it's like Nebraska destroyed Colorado. So let's not forget they're
Yeah.
not a bad team. They just absolutely had a horrible game, and IU was all over them like white on rice.
Mm-hmm.
So they were not going to get embarrassed again. They probably had a week of practice to remember, and they played a lot better against Ohio State. And Ohio State's coming off a week off from the Oregon game, and they're putting in a new left tackle, and he didn't start out great. He got abused for the first quarter of that game. I mean, he was just thrown over the place, and it was Howard was lucky enough to get out of some of them plays without a sack, but he did get sacked a few times. So, but he played better later, but then down with an injury. So we'll just see. But yeah, it's hard to if you're a bad team, yeah, you get embarrassed a lot, But Nebraska wasn't a bad team; they just had a bad game, and it was ugly. And they had us the week after, so yeah, they were definitely looking to right that wrong, so to speak. And Ohio State gritted it out, and they were down late, and then they needed to drive. And they had to drive pretty much the field, and they did it, and they got in the end zone. And then
Right.
defense came up with the stop, which everybody's crying about. Defense can't stop anybody. Well, they did. So give them some credit. They're kids playing football, and you're not going to win them all every year. It's just the way it goes. No matter who you are. Even Saban didn't win it every year. He just won it more than anybody else, but still.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And there was, we talking about the linemen, and I hear that a lot. I hear it from excuses from fans. I hear it on the networks from the commentators and everything else. All they had to bring in a backup tackle, a backup guard. They had to switch the center and the guard and all that kind of stuff. That makes a big difference in the game. And it always reminds me, if you do have a solid player that's not able to play, if we go back in time, and I'm sure I've told this story on here before. If we all go back in time, if we're older, like I am, back to '89, a guy from Michigan State named Tony Mandrich.
Oh yeah,
Tony Mandrich. He was the second coming of the offensive lineman.
Oh yeah.
Taken what number one in the draft.
The
There
Colts.
was Troy Aikman, Barry Sanders, Deion Sanders, Michael Irvin. We had this loaded class right here, and Tony Mandrich is one of the first players taking, and that he was going to be, he's going to be, the one comparison that I always heard was, he's the next Anthony Munoz.
Right,
And
right.
all of us local people and Buckeye people and all that stuff, we all know him from the Cincinnati Bengals. Probably was one of the greatest offensive linemen
Oh yeah.
that there was. But anyways, so Tannemeyer, he comes in, he's supposed to be this greatest thing and all that, and they're actually having it was actually a preseason game versus the Raiders, and Bob Golick, I'm sorry, Mike Golick. Mike, because he had Mike and Mike, the show
Right.
that they had going on. Mike Golick was the stand. They asked him. They said, after the game, Tony Mandrich was supposed to be in all this. He said, is Tony Mandrich really that good? Is he, is he everything that he's built up to be? And he goes, one thing I can tell you is that you're just going to have to watch out for that guy. And the reporter says, is he really that good? He said, I don't know about that, but I never knew which way How Long was going to throw him. I always thought that was a great story. And of course, he was one of the biggest busts in NFL
Oh yeah,
history, you
he
know.
was right up there
But
with Bosworth.
yeah, whenever you start talking about the offensive line thing, that just triggered that in my mind. So I kind of had to tell that story. So
And he was a roid guy, wasn't he? Wasn't he a steroid
yeah,
user?
that was the issue. You know,
Yeah,
he was on the Sports Illustrated magazine, you know, the big thing of groceries, this big monster guy, and then, you know, oh, I got to be tested, and it just, you know,
yeah,
never did work out for him.
yeah. It's tough to if you're on the roids. It's tough to do that when you don't have any roids anymore. So
Well, and I mean, you know, and this is back in oh well,
80s.
1989.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, I'm sure things were different. I'm sure the technology was different. I'm sure the whole Royd thing was pretty much cut and dry.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah. It
know,
was.
there wasn't all this, you know, uh, different things to slide around, any of that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
all that. You know, it was pretty cut and dry, and obviously, you know,
Yep.
he tried to take advantage of it, and it didn't work out.
Yep. Yep. There's no doubt. I remember him busting out at a Colt. I remember Bosworth, supposed to be the next greatest linebacker, and watching Bo Jackson run him over in a Monday Night Football game with Seattle and the Raiders, and then he ended up being somewhat of a bust. Now he's a Dr. Pepper commercial guy. He's pretty good at that too. So,
Oh, Brian
but
Bosworth.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
he's a sheriff of Dr. Pepper Town or Fanville, whatever they call it. But yeah, it's some of those guys are like that. And then you got like Dion, who was incredible, two-sport guy, played both sports in the same day, and just set all kinds of records. And he was pretty amazing at what he did. I mean, he was a showboat like crazy, and a lot of people didn't like that stuff. Me included. Just play the game,
Yeah.
but he would definitely backed it up with his play on the field. There's no doubt.
Well, we'll see what happens. You know, with Colorado, with Dion. Once if Travis comes back, or his son. Those are great players. I seen the thing where that Travis Hunter, he said, if Colorado wants me to come back, it's going to cost them like $11 million or some outrageous amount, something like that. I'm like, are you kidding me? But
Yeah.
who knows? He could possibly get it. I don't.
Yeah, it'd be more than he'd get in his rookie contract.
Yeah, I
Because,
mean,
there's a
nothing,
cap on
nothing,
that. So,
nothing. I think it's crazy, but I mean,
yeah,
I wouldn't be shocked.
right, right.
If that was the
I don't think
the case.
Shador has a year left. So I think they were talking about it on radio on there. So he'll have to go pro.
Yeah,
And I don't think he's got a COVID thing or anything. So to me, it'd be interesting. Just throwing it out there that if Shador goes, which I think he will go pro, if Dion's going to try to go pro too and be on the team where he's going. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to do that. I really don't know, but I wouldn't be too surprised just because he's everywhere he's went. He's took his son with him so far, Jackson State, now Colorado. So I just wonder if he has that in his mind. He hasn't said he has or anything, and maybe he won't, but you never know.
he was a Florida State guy whenever he was in college.
Yeah. He played at Florida State,
So
and
got to be an opening there, right?
well, I tell you, there or where he played at Dallas in the pros, and I can see Jerry Jones being, no offense to Dion, dumb enough to hire him. So,
well, Jerry Jones, but yeah, the other thing, one of my favorite players, being a baseball guy and coaching baseball for all these years, one of my favorite players and an absolute fantastic guy. Congratulations to the Dodgers, and especially Freddie Freeman. A great individual, a great guy. I was really happy for him. He had a great had a
dude,
great
he had a
post.
legendary
Oh man,
series.
yeah, great postseason
4 homers.
MVP. I was really happy for him.
Yeah.
He's always kind of been a Reds and a Yankees fan, but I could not root against that guy. I was really happy for him. That was I thought that was great that the postseason that he had. I was really happy for him.
Did you see that his game-winning homer in the extra innings of Game 1 landed within, I think, 30 seconds of the same time as Kirk Gibson's in '88? You see that?
I did. I see they had the comparison thing going on. It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
It was really cool. Yeah.
The story real quick. I was in community college in, of all places, Michigan, Oakland Community College, and I was starting my broadcasting career at the local radio station at the school. And my sister won a radio contest, and months later they pulled the people and pulled name out, and they pulled her name out. We got to go to California for 4 days to go to Universal Studios. The night we landed in California was Game 1 of Dodgers, and was it Oakland A's?
Yeah.
Horsheiser, and of course Kirk Gibson was from Detroit, and I knew who he was because he'd been playing in Detroit. That was his first year after he left the Tigers to go to. So we landed and got a thing to take us to the Los Angeles Registry Hotel. Got in my room and I turned it on. There was about 2 innings left, and I saw here comes Gibby waddling out of the dugout in the extra. I don't know if that was extra innings at the bottom of the ninth, but. And he hit that one, and so I was in L.A. when he hit that L.A. shot.
That's pretty
shot
cool.
heard around the world. So that was my little thing, But that was incredible. Too bad because Vince Scully passed away a few years ago, didn't he? Did he not? Am I wrong about that?
Vince Scully, the announcer.
Yeah, is he still announcing for the Dodgers, or is he?
I don't think
for some reason I thought he passed away because I know the guy that used to play at ESPN. The guy with the beard, he's been on the radio there forever, I think, or TV. But anyways, Vince Scully was on the call for the one that Kirk Gibson did. I thought it would have been really cool to have Vince Scully on the call for that one. But
right.
Yeah, Vince Scully was almost like Mel Allen to me. The two, and of course Ernie Harwell, and then why can't I think of the guy for the Reds all those years?
Who, Marty Brennaman?
Yeah, Marty. Yeah, those guys are voices are like baseball voices to me.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
absolutely,
pretty cool. So anyway, some great games coming up. I'm sure we'll be going back and forth on those games, and like I said, maybe we'll get something together first of the week and talk about the elections and all that.
Yeah,
I'm talking about.
We'll see.
College football.
We'll see if we can. Yeah, we'll see if we can predict it all. But it'd be kind of fun if we can. I'll see if I throw some graphics together. We can fill out a 12 team. Just we don't have to go to the top 25. Just see who we think they're going to throw in the 12. Because right now it's not going to be exactly like the last one. Because the top 5 conference champions get the top 4 slots, and then whatever the 5th slot, I guess, and the top 4 get to buy. But they don't have to be 1 through 5 in the CFP. They still be conference champions because so the Big 12 conference champions may not be a top 14, but they'll get a bye, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of things to look at. So we'll roll it all out.
Well, not only that, but we also have. I mean, there's such big games coming up that's going to determine all that stuff here coming up, and then of course the conference championships is going to come into play. I can see a lot of those teams matching back up again. Ohio State, Oregon. We'll get to see the Miami, Clemson, Georgia, and who knows? Who knows? Texas again? I don't know.
As much as that bye week will be really good for teams, the teams that get those home games in that first round is going to be incredible, especially where they're going to be. Could be really. We've talked about that a little bit last week.
Yeah, I seen an article the guy was talking about that he thought one of the best spots was going to be that 5th team.
Right.
Be able to make a run because they were going to have a home game versus 12.
Right.
So they automatically they should. Of course, we don't know that, but they should get past that game and put them right into the quarterfinals. So,
and that 12th team. Yeah, depending on how they look at it, could be like a Boise State, which wouldn't all be that great of a team to play with that running back as good as he is. So, but it could be somebody else that Boise State fumbles or but takes a loss. But yeah, that 5th seeded team being a conference champion playing what is probably the group of 5 team could be really interesting. There's no doubt.
Oh yeah, I mean understand what he was saying. Depending on who that 12th team is, but depend on who runs the table here. If it's LSU, if it's Alabama, if it's if it's whoever, Indiana, whatever, you could run into somebody in that 12th spot that you don't really want to see. Early that are in playoffs. So yeah, lots of things to happen. So that'll be interesting.
I mean, if any of the 4 power conferences have 2 undefeated teams, if it's possible, in the championship game of their conference, the one that loses that is probably going to get that 5th spot. The 6th spot, I should say, because the 5th spot is probably going to be the 5th conference champion that doesn't, isn't one of the top 4. So it's going to be interesting, but that all the teams that lose their conference championship games, if they've got great records, they're going to be slotted in there at the home games probably, except for that one conference champion. So like we talked about it, if Penn State gets in there as a 5, 6, 7, or 8, Penn State, LSU, Tennessee, I mean, all those teams could be potential teams in there with home games. And how crazy would it be to see those environments with 100-something thousand people just going nuts, crazy, and whiteouts and blackouts and whatever. I mean, nuts.
Well, but the thing is, whoever does win, the conference championship, I mean, they're guaranteed a spot in there, but they're not necessarily guaranteed the first 4 spots.
Well, the highest ranked conference champions, the first 4 get the buys,
Right.
so no matter what, so they'll be 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they'll get buys. Then 5 will be the highest ranked. I don't know if 5 is going to be the highest ranked conference champion. You would figure it would be because they're a conference champion, and then after that, it's all how it falls out in the rankings. So,
right.
But the 5th one won't get a buy. But there's Power 4 conferences. So which one? Because there's no Pac-12, so you got to figure it's a Power 5 school conference getting that 5th spot, like a what was that, Mountain West, which I think is Boise State and San Diego State and all that. That's probably going to be where the 5th one comes from, because there is no Pac-12, and SEC, ACC, Big 10, and Big 12 will probably get in the top 4. Another interesting thing that we ain't got a whole lot of time to dig into this is Washington State's only lost 1 game, and I think they lost to Boise State, if I'm not sure. Something they've been, so there is a path for them to get in, but it would have to be they are looked at as a Power 5 school, not a Power 4 school, because there are 4 power conferences. So group of 5, I should say.
Yeah.
So they could be the group of 5 team.
Well, they're also a path for them to get absolutely blown out too. So
there's no doubt. There's no doubt.
Yeah. But I was, maybe I misunderstood that. I was reading an article on it the other day. I was listening to a guy, and maybe I misunderstood the whole thing. I thought he was saying that, all the conference winners are guaranteed a spot, but it wasn't necessarily be the top 4 spots that the committee
I watched it with
would list those.
I watched it on a couple of different Tuesdays. They've been doing a show the last few Tuesdays, because that's when the polls are going to come out this coming week, and it's Reese Davis. And it's just for people who don't know, here's how it all lays out. They show video. The top 4 conference champions get the top 4 seeds, they get a bye, and then the 5th conference champion, I don't know if they automatically get the 5th, but they got to play a home game, or they just fall out. But it's either they get that 5th, or everything after the top 4 is how they fall out in the polls. I'm not sure about the 5th one, but I know they get an automatic bid. But the top 4 conference champions do get the top 4 slots, and they get the bye.
So you have you're going to have the Big 10,
the
SEC, the ACC, and then what, the Big 12?
I think so, because that's Power 4 schools. They're not going to recognize a group of 5 to get that, and they will never rank them that high anyways, based on strength of schedule.
So out west, whatever they got going on out there, that's going to be the 5th.
I think that's the biggest, because the American does have Army and Navy. Navy just took a loss. Army's undefeated. Tulane's undefeated. And so it could be one of them. But right now, Boise State's ranked higher than all of them. And so if they keep rolling, then I think they're in the Mountain West. Then it'll be them. They're in the driver's seat for that right now, as long as they keep winning. So
well, we'll see. Well, like I said, we'll see how it all plays out here in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good, man.
I'll read upon that some more to make sure I'm right about that, because I could have. It's like a billboard. You see it 10 times, you still can't remember the number. So I'll double check.
Well, the problem is, the more people I listen to, the more confused I get, because there's so many friggin' different stories. Not just in football, but in life in general. So
right. All right, so we'll see you Monday night. We'll try to hit up sometime between 7 and 8 or so. We'll figure it out, but we'll get the word out on the Facebook page and let you know. And so until then, enjoy the games tomorrow. There's some tonight. I think Boise State's playing tonight, so that'd be interesting. Watch that Ashton Genty guy, who's kind of in the driver's seat for the Heisman a little bit.
He's good.
Yeah, he's something else. So all righty. So until Monday, we'll see you guys on Monday. Until then, enjoy the games.
All right, we'll